Well, the road to the Open Series has been an absolute winner for all of us involved here at Inside the Ropes, but it's next level stuff, Hazy and Clates. I've got to say, today, the opportunity to speak to Gary Player, who won 7 Australian Opens and was such a magnificent international ambassador for the game every time he came down to these shores, joins us on the show. Gary, it's an absolute honour to be speaking to you. Thanks for your time.
It's a pleasure. I just love Australia and Australians, and I miss Australia terribly. But anyway, it's a pleasure to talk to you guys.
Why was we understand the commercial reasons for why you came down here, and we'll probably have a chat to you about those on the way through, but it was more than that, wasn't it? What the Australian Open and playing golf down here came to mean to you. Why did it become such a big part of your life?
Well, first of all, there was no commercial. We were paid something like $10,000 or something, whereas today they paid hundreds of thousands and millions. I just loved Australia. The Australian Open, to me, was the 5th most important tournament in the world at that time. Jack Nicklaus, Arnold Palmer, Lee Trevino, everybody wanted to come down and play in the Australian Open, and I don't know what happened. It just things seemed to collapse in the golf world there. But anyway, I was so delighted to come down there, and I tell you, they called me Gaza there, and I just absolutely, I can't tell you in words how much I enjoyed coming down there and playing.
Well, how come that fascination reached around the world, Gary? I mean, the 5th major, we all loved that for such a long time. Obviously, it's not now. How did that get around the world in your estimation?
I don't know. I think it's the top players taking part in it all the time. I think that's what gave it the honour of winning. I mean, everybody wanted to go to Australia and win the Australian Open, just like in tennis. It's one of the majors.
So, Gary, a part of the problem now is that if we bought the equivalent of you and Jack and Arnold to play at the Australian Open, it would cost us more than $3 million because you would be charging $1 million each, probably, or more, because Tiger Woods played the Australian Masters here in 2009 and got $3 million.
Well, you see, I can't think in terms of that kind of thing because we never got that. We got just a handful of dollars to go and play. We wanted to play around the world and promote the game. And one of my favourite records is 7 Australian Opens because it was over nearly 20 years. It is very hard to win consistently for a long time. And I always made sure I travelled the world to play in different countries promoting our wonderful game of golf.
So, Gary, I watched you. Oh, it was a big deal for me. You had a beautiful pair of brown pants on, a beautiful brown polo neck jumper as we ran down the first fairway at Kingston Heath in 1970. In the days when the gallery walked on the fairway, do you think that was a good thing or a bad thing for golf that you had the crowds on the fairway as opposed to behind the ropes?
No, that was a bad thing to have them inside the ropes. You just couldn't play golf like that. I don't know how we did it. I don't know how people weren't hurt. No, they're keeping the people on the outside of the ropes. They can see much more. People were denied of seeing the golfers once they were inside the ropes.
Well, I saw it because I could run. I remember sprinting down the first fairway at the Kingston Heath to get the front row seat.
Gary, you won in all corners of Australia pretty much. Did you? And I know you've given many politically correct answers to all these questions. Did you have a favourite course among the ones you won on, or those you didn't salute at?
Oh no, the Sandbelt golf courses were my favourite, and that's, you know, I'm so prejudiced because I won the Ampol tournament, which was bigger than 3 or 4 times bigger than the British Open at that time.
Wow.
And when I won it, it enabled me to get married to my wife, Vivian, who's been a wonderful wife. And, how do I ever say thank you enough for that? I've been married for 60 years and 6 children and 22 grandchildren. So Australia played a vital role in that.
That tournament promoted all of that.
Yes, it did. It did.
Mate, there's a funny story, and I'm sure you can enlighten us. I think it was when you won at Kooyonga in 1965, maybe.
Yep.
Yes.
When you shot the just unbelievable scores. There was we heard the other day about you maybe joking back and forth with Jack Nicklaus about shooting 62s on alternate days. Could you remember yelling across the fairway to him, or a story similar to that?
Yes, he was. At that time, I'd shot 62 the first day. And he said, I'm going to get you a little butt tomorrow. And he shot 63 and I shot 70. I said, how can I have an average of 66 and be 3 behind you, but I'm going to get you American butt tomorrow. And after 10 holes, I was 10 under. And he sent his caddy running across to see how I was going, and I said to him, I'm 10 under, mate. No, he said, not for the tournament. He said, for today. I said, I'm 10 under. And Jack Nicklaus, walking on the adjacent fairway, said, you're trying to put me off. You're telling a big lie.
What did he say afterwards when you actually showed him the scorecard?
Jack Nicklaus was a wonderful winner and a wonderful loser. He was thrilled for me to have won the Australian Open. And then I was in the airport with yellow pants and a red jacket and white shoes, and a little old lady came up to me and said, you look like the bus driver. Where do I get my tickets to go downtown?
How much were you driven, Gary, by the competitiveness with... You would have known at the time that you're playing in an era where, you and Jack and Tom, and you're playing with some of the players who you knew would have been going down as amongst the greatest players in the history of the game. How much did that drive you?
Oh, extremely so. But, I hit more balls than any man that ever lived, and I travelled more miles than any human being that's ever lived. I wanted to have the best record in the world. I wanted to have the best world record, not the most majors, not this or that, the best world record, and I think I achieved that by winning in more countries than most people have ever done and more times.
So what do you say to the modern-day players who... we joke on this show that half the blokes on the PGA Tour probably don't even have a passport. What do you say to them that they don't have that? They don't embrace that responsibility the way you did.
I don't know what you say to them. First of all, to travel is a great education, and I don't know how you can't put passion into somebody. That's something you either have or you don't have. And I was very poor as a kid, so I struggled, and every opportunity I had to play somewhere in the world, I enjoyed it and I loved it.
Gary, we joke about AFL footballers who have to travel to Perth to play a football match, and they've got to fly back in the cribs to keep their body oxygen up on the way back to make sure they're ready to play the next week, and I laugh at that. You played the 1963 Australian Open at Royal Melbourne, and you left Paris and the World Cup at St Noma British on Monday, I think. So
yes.
You and Bruce Devon, can you run through that trip from Paris to Melbourne
to
play the Australian Open?
The round was fogged out, and Arnold and Jack said they were not coming because the travel agent said, I can get you to Royal Melbourne 3 hours before you play. And I flew to New York, to LA, to Hawaii, to Fiji, to Sydney, to Royal Melbourne. I got there 3.5 hours before. This is the most amazing win of my life, by the way.
Yeah.
I'd never seen the golf course. Had a shower and a sandwich. Can you believe this? With a 16-hour time change, whatever it is, and won the Open by 7 shots.
And
that was a miracle, I can tell you. That was an absolute miracle.
So which clubs did you play with? The clubs you'd play with in Paris or the Schlesinger clubs?
No. I had a new set of Schlesinger clubs at that time and changed to the ball. I don't know. Look, I don't know how I did it. It was a divine intervention, I can promise you.
So did you just play the course as you saw it in front of you? Is that kind of, you stand on the first tee, and you just play what's in front of you? Is that what you did?
That's what I did, and I don't know, I still today tell people of all my 165 victories, that was the most amazing, not necessarily the most important. But today these guys are taking so much time. They look at a piece of paper when they get on the green to see which way the grade's growing.
Well, speaking of that, what do you make of the green books? Do you think they should be banned by the R&A?
Yes, they will be banned. They will be banned. It's just a matter of time. They're making the game. If you have a one practice round, anyway, look, a pro doesn't even need to. You put me on any green in the world, first time I can tell you where to putt. If you can't do that, you've got problems.
Well,
they're making the game too slow, too expensive, and they're making the golf courses too long. The one great dream I had all my life was to build one golf course in Oz, and it never happened. We came close, but they ran out of money. But my goodness me, if you ever hear of a course, that's something I'd love to do before I die one day.
Where was that going to be, Gary?
Anywhere in Australia.
Oh, there wasn't something specific on the books?
It was in the Gold Coast.
Now, well, we'll go on to our other favourite bashing subject, which is the golf ball, because I suspect you have a view on the golf ball that would be in line with ours. What do you make of the modern ball and what it's done to the great courses and how they're played by the best players?
They've absolutely ruined them. I think as far as the weekend golf is concerned, they must keep the ball and keep the equipment going for them. But for pro golf, you've got to cut the ball back 50 yards. I was at Sun City for the big tournament over the weekend. Sullivan from Britain hit a drive and a 4-iron to the 10th hole. Nicklaus used to hit a drive and a 1-iron, and Nicklaus is 60 yards longer than he is. So it's making people make the golf courses longer, using more water, and Australia and South Africa don't have water, and they're making the costs too high, and the members hate it when their golf courses get changed with bunkers in front of the greens for the old members and make the greens too undulating. The ball has destroyed the game, in my opinion, as far as that's my humble opinion, and a lot of players agree to that. They say, well, the players are stronger today. They're not. Sam Snead was the strongest and greatest athlete in golf that ever lived. Nicklaus, Palmer, Snead, Mike Suchak was a football player, George Bayer. They were actually stronger than the guys today, so I don't want to hear that nonsense.
What about the use of statistics to prevent any change to the ball, Gary? What do you see the RNA or the USGA or whoever it is, the tour, say, technically things haven't changed too much?
No, well, they're just absolutely dreaming. They're absolutely dreaming, and I'll tell you what's more, they're going to hit the ball not 400 yards. When I told that in television, they said I was crazy. You've got some players that are going to hit the ball 430 yards, a Michael Jordan, a Shaq O'Neal, or a LeBron James. They haven't had big people, really big people, play the game yet. Wait until that happens. The golf courses, they're hitting driving 9-irons and 8-irons to par 5s. I mean, what is going to happen? I mean, at St Andrews, the home of golf, they'll drive 9 greens in another 10 years.
Are you confident that they'll wind it back, Gary, or not?
That's an absolute certainty. It's an absolute certainty.
I saw the longest iron until he played that new hole in Boston at Gil Hansted at the tournament in Boston. The longest iron Dustin Johnson had hit to a par 4 this year was a 6-iron.
No, I tell you, it's quite sad. It's very, very sad to
Crazy,
see
isn't it?
what's happening in golf. That's why the rounds are down. People are changing their golf courses to make them longer, spending more money, and economically it's hurting. Then they levy the members, and then the people resign because they don't like these long, difficult golf courses. The whole thing is a mess.
So, Gary, what would you say to Brad Faxon, who tweeted last week saying, I see Tigers come out against the modern ball just like Gary and Jack and Arnold and Greg have. He said, oh, listen, when one of the current top 10 players in the world comes out against the ball. How do you counter that?
Well, I don't know.
Crazy argument.
Yeah, everybody's got an opinion, you follow, so you must have respect for everybody's opinion. But I'm delighted that Tiger has come out with that. I mean, it's just logic. I mean, all the you can see what's happening. I mean, you know what's going to happen when you see when you see people at Augusta hitting a 9-iron to a par 5. I mean, I don't know, and I see them scoring the kind of scores. Look, it's all a matter of an opinion.
Gary, you've been changing tactics a little bit here. You've been linked with Jack and Arnie inextricably through your career. We've seen you so many times on the first tee at Augusta National. What does that mean to you, and what was it like when the third member of that trilogy wasn't there?
Well, it's always been an honour to be selected to play off there, and we were in tears with Arnold not teeing up this year. Particularly the chair had his jacket on, and it broke us down a bit.
Is it hard to sort of comprehend what that means to other people in your eyes?
Well, I don't know. You see, I can never speak for other people, but Arnold and I travelled the world together, and we went down gold mines in South Africa. He visited my farm. I visited his home. I flew in his aeroplane. Arnold, Jack, and I were the big three. And there might be another big three come along and win 350 tournaments and 56 majors, counting seniors and regular. That can happen. But I don't think you'll ever have a big three that travel together and live together like brothers as we did.
I'm certain that that's absolutely true. And one thing with that that they didn't do was engage, although Jack's not too bad, they don't engage on social media and continue to be relevant to new fans. You are a guru on Twitter, among other things. How and why?
Well, I love to see people win tournaments and encourage them because I struggled in my life, and I know any time I got any encouragement, it meant an awful lot to me. But anyway, guys, I got to go to bed. It's way past my bedtime. What's the time in Australia now? 12:30?
Very early in the morning over here, Gary. It's up 6 in the morning in Melbourne. So,
oh my goodness!
It's been.
Well, listen, guys, give my best love to your great country. I miss them so much. It brings tears to my eyes, and God bless Australia.
Gary, it's been a joy to have a chat to you on the program. We've enjoyed it so much. Thanks for giving us your time.
Thanks, mate.
Thanks, Gary.
Thanks, Gary.